day to you all, and welcome back to the Social Work Race. And if you think my voice is deep now, you should have heard it yesterday. Yeah, because we're still getting over colds. We just had a big family get together. We've all shared our germs with each other, and I've visited a few people over the last week or so, and some people have been coughing in my face, right? So you know how it can be. You come home and you're thinking, well, and I'm spreading germs. I remember there was a family who said, look, we've all got the flu. And the situation was such that I had to visit them because of what was going on. Lovely family though. And that's the job. Really nice. We had a good couple of hours together, working out some stuff, working out what's going to be happening from now on. And, you know, they let me in and they were happy to have me. And, you know, they're really afraid of germs and stuff like that, but they had me in and it was a really good time. Yeah, and that's the work we have to do sometimes. But yeah, how did I get onto that topic? Yeah, so I've got a cold. Well, actually it's cold part allergy to a cat that, is just, it's not my cat, it's a family's cat who creates allergies with me, and we visit the family and it just always starts the ball rolling again. It actually feels like a cold. But yeah, that's where I am. So that's why my voice is sounding a bit like it's been through the mill. But today, as we continue with the Social Work Race podcast, there's something I want to talk to you about, and one of them is, sorry, let me start that again. There's something I wanted to talk to you about, and that was, before we get into the topic, was that I will be doing a series on assessment, because I think that, I'm keeping my finger on the pulse of what students and newly qualified need to hear and see and know about. And I just want you all to know that you are the center, and I will try to make sure that you all are the center of my podcast. And any work that I do is just about preparing and helping people to get on that, So, yeah, that will be coming very, very, very soon. Preparing for it today. And just to let you all know, today is a day off. I've got tomorrow off as well because it's all bank holidays. I'm locum, so that's the way it is. In fact, my whole team's off really, but locum, obviously, we don't get paid for these days. So we're going to take a hit in January, right? So we're off. And so whilst I'm doing that, I'll be doing some work, to be fair, because I know it's going to be chaos when I get back. So I'm just trying to ease the load, the workload. Some people say, look, it's my time off. Yeah, some of you can do that. I actually saw a video the other day of a social worker. Hats off to them. They said that they've done everything they've got to do. And I'm sitting there thinking, what? How do you do that? Well, I guess it depends where you work and what team you work in. But my work is not near done. In fact, my work is never done. And that's the reality of it. So I'm actually trying to manage it. And although it's family time, I've got 3 children, it's the Christmas period, I'm going to have to do some work because I have family. I'm trying to ease that load. But today, anyway, I wanted to talk to you about, it's not just about imposter syndrome, but I want to look at belief and self-belief. You heard the video clip that I played there. And it's powerful because the words that we say on the inside are actually a reflection of how we feel. And I'm always saying to my son, like, you've got to change how you talk. Not that he always talks negative of himself. He's learning actually to rethink how he thinks and how he feels and how to modify some of that. I'm very much about that. Like, why did you say that? Well, that's just a reflection of how you feel. Like, if you think you can't, then you can't. And if you think you can, then you'll try and keep trying until you believe otherwise. And what's my point? My point is this. Sometimes I hear social workers saying it's so hard, or I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. And look, I think that social media has really helped social work to kind of provide narrative and information about what it really is. And I've been working hard to do that because in my time there was none, and it was only a few years ago. There wasn't anything out there really that was explaining what it was like on a feet on the ground basis, excuse me, on a narrative basis, literally step by step. How does it feel? What are you seeing in preparation for? It was just like you get into it and then deal with it. And I'm going to sneeze in a minute. there are pros and cons to hitting the ground running. You learn fast. But I think social work is changing. I think the world is changing, and social media is putting social work to some degree on its back foot, and so we have to fight back with the Social Work Race podcast and other podcasters and guests that I have on the show to kind of push back against what has been portrayed about us. And as we study, I remember some of the most valuable lessons in my university lectures was when people asked questions, what does it look like? Because people are desperate to know, how do we social work and how do we social work well? We don't want to come into this game without a clue. We don't want to do that. We want to do this right. And everyone I studied with was desperate to become a great social worker. I wanted to hit the ground running, but I didn't know how to. And so, but luckily for me, I had similar work experience anyway. The work experience I didn't have was the immense amount of paperwork that needs to be done whilst you have to do that family and child work. And I knew that was an area, I didn't know how bad it would be. And so that's why I do this platform, for you all to just kind of, let's understand what it's literally like. That's why I'm going to do a series on assessment. Okay. If you go on my YouTube channel, The Social Work Race, you'll see a session with I Am Shells, and she breaks it down really nicely. But I'm going to go into it in more detail so that you all can watch the sessions that I produce and then literally go out there and just do it, okay? That's the plan. But I'm talking about the fact that there is a voice, and I'm talking more to students now, but we can take on some of this information as newly qualified or ASYE social workers, excuse the sniffing, where there's a voice that tells you, well, you don't know what you're doing. Some of you all know my story. My story is repeated time and time again because I think my story is a reflection of, and I think I should be sharing how tough my journey was and showing you the outcomes that you can get. I came from a significant level of fear of academics because I left school with nothing. I worked for 23 years thinking I could work my way through life, finding that the choice of career that I wanted to work in, which was helping young people, helping youth, and one of my favorite things is to work with families as a whole. That's where my real heart is. It was a struggle to get a job because local authorities were only recruiting people with social work degrees, even in the youth offending service, which is where a lot of my experience is. And so I had to get the degree to stop myself from having to be searching for jobs. That was the challenge. They're not doing it so much now, looking for people with degrees in the youth offending service, but it helps when you've got the degree. So I had to bite it on this bitter stick and study for 4 years. Excuse me. And in doing that, I found that I had to, before I went into college, I felt like a failure. I already had a narrative played out in my head that I'm not quite good enough. And let's just start at that point. This is where the show starts. That had informed all of my decisions for my whole life. Now, there are areas of strength that I have, yes, but there was also another program running in the background that taught me to go where I was comfortable because I wasn't good enough to do anything else. And that program ran for many years. I had that program as a default, just like my mom. In the back of my mind, you're only this good. And this good is a very, very low bar for me. And that informed a lot of my decisions. I would go where I felt safe, and where I felt safe didn't produce much fruit. I know some of you can relate to this. I went to college and did the social work diploma. I'm telling you, a sneeze is coming really soon. I did a social work diploma, and that diploma I was hella nervous, massively nervous about my first assignment result, having not done any assignments since I left college. College was such a bad experience that I don't even remember it. And that's how I deal with bad experiences. They get blocked automatically, not consciously, but subconsciously, just blocked. And so I don't remember how well I did in college. I don't remember the experience. And so when I went to college again to do the diploma, I knew in my heart that I was no good at this. What the heck am I doing here? And I had a really good set of tutors, to be fair. And I got my first grade. I remember the day I got my first grade, and I was surprised as to how high it was. And that first grade told me that I was able. And I remember specifically the feeling and the thought process after I received a distinction in my first. I was surprised, okay? And this is what it was. Sorry, I got a merit in my first grade. And I was thinking, well, how did I do that? Actually, maybe I'm good enough. This is what went in my head. Maybe you're good enough. Then I said, well, if I'm good enough for the merit, then what's stopping me from getting a distinction? And that was the day my mindset changed. I decided to switch off the program that told me that I wasn't really good enough. That was, it doesn't always work in one day, but in that particular situation, it worked. And in that one day, I was able to now say, this is it. I am good enough. And I had about 3 merits, but overall I passed that course with a distinction. And believe me when I say, for the first time in my life, I believed in myself. Whereas I didn't even realize beforehand how much I didn't believe in myself. And it wasn't clear until I decided to believe in myself how bad it felt to not believe in myself. How clear it was that I didn't believe in myself. I had a form of confidence, but it wasn't really confidence, it was courage. What I mean by that is I would walk through life making decisions without believing in myself. That's courage. Courage is like you walk ahead and do it anyway. You push ahead even though you have heavy doubts. Excuse me. And that's what courage is. I was courageous, but courage takes you so far because you can be scared and still step out. I was courageous to go to college, of course. I have to claim that. I don't put myself on a pedestal for that, but that's the reality. I was encouraged. My wife encouraged me to go back to uni after years of encouraging me. I made the courageous decision to step out, but I did not believe in myself. Do you understand? I didn't have any confidence or self-confidence. I took a leap and I passed with a distinction. And halfway through the course, I had decided that I would pass with a distinction. And that laid the foundation for me entering the degree. When I went to university, I was aiming for a first. Now, getting a first in uni is not necessarily as easy as it is in college. The standards are 3-4 times higher, yeah? And I realized that after I started to get some grades my first year, I was like, why am I only getting a 2-1, maybe 2-2 kind of grades? But, you know, the first year doesn't count towards your grades, which is really helpful, I guess. And for the first 2 years, I heard no voices of negativity within. That person had been suppressed. Now, I use that word suppressed. Your abilities, Curtis, will... the voice would say your abilities are sufficient for the first 2 years. I was not overly confident. I was at peace with the fact that I would achieve a first. It's going to be a challenge, but I will do it. I remember I got a punch in the gut in my first year because I got a 45 and that hit me for a few weeks. I was so mad at myself because I didn't read the brief properly. But apart from that, I was always like pretty much in the 70%. And I was like, I want to get a first. Why? Why do I want to get this first? Well, I had realized even before I'd studied that I needed a mindset. I needed a mindset that would take me beyond my degree. Why? Because I had been so sophisticatedly suppressed, it's not a word, but it's a word today, suppressed by disbelief. I had been so suppressed by disbelief in myself that I needed to undo all of those years of no belief. And I knew that I needed the momentum to propel me into the future of my life. And I worked out that my mindset needed a lot more work. Now, I've only mentioned the first 2 years for you, but I want you to understand is that I'm coming from somewhere. I'm coming from my life story is my life story, yeah? I needed, how can I put this? I needed to, for those people, let me put it like this, there are people that are just naturally good at academics. I'm not one of those people. I'm good at reasoning, but when it comes to putting my work on paper, that's my challenge, okay? I've known this forever, this isn't a thing for me. But I also recognized that there was a voice still being played out or a program that was given to me that told me that I wasn't good enough. And so whilst I was achieving in the first 2 years and, getting pretty much a 2-1 borderline first, because of my mindset, I realized also that I needed more of this to take me further, because after I qualify, I'm going to need a stronger or a greater force to propel me away from the pull of this voice into my career. I hope you're following me. I'm trying, this is an off-the-cuff kind of session. And as I am speaking to you, as it comes to me, right? This was the struggle, okay? Where I had to be honest with myself that what I am doing today, which was at the time, is not enough to take me into tomorrow and sustain me tomorrow, okay? Come the third year, there was a change. The third year was getting off the bus and it's a 1-2 minute walk to the university doors, and 30 seconds into that walk, you see, when I got off the bus in my third year, my first day back at uni, I was still that guy that was confident, okay? When I got off the bus, out of the blue, unexpectedly, a voice said to me, "You have failed." This is where I want to get to. You have failed. This is it, right here. And because I didn't expect it, it was like being mugged on the street. It was like, it's happened to me before, my phone has been snatched out of my hand. I didn't expect it. And I started to have a level of anxiety about my abilities and my sense of achievement, my sense of expecting failure, which was my life, yeah? I expect things to fall apart and not know what to do about it, right? To lie and wake up in the rubble of my failure. That's what I expected. And so as I walked up to the gates, my heart started to beat, and I'm a dad. You know, I've lived against the odds. Why am I getting this? And that's the thing. Remember I said to you earlier, I suppressed the voice. But the voice or the person was still there, yeah? I could only muzzle that voice for 2 years, 3 years maybe, yeah? As I went through the course, I want you to understand that, you know, my battle was now awakening the other person that said, you can do this. You'll be okay. Just keep pushing on. Just do the work. Maintaining that was my greatest battle, because I recognized that, and I still believe it 100%. And if this is any encouragement to you, just doing it anyway is your safeguard. So how I've combated the voices is by just doing it anyway. And even now, the voices are still there. Like, even when you're scared, put in the work. Even when you feel like you're going to fail, put in the work. Yeah, number one safeguard. Put in the work and do it anyway to the best of your ability, even if you're shaking in your boots. Just do it. But the other point I wanted to make, which is what I've been making, is that voice is in a lot of people, okay? Some personalities just don't have it. They push ahead. Some people are naturally built for this academic work. Or it could be just the placement, like meeting people, your ability to assess, make friends, blend in. All of these anxieties can kick in for different people. Just do it. That voice is real. And what you have to do is you have to talk to yourself differently. Have a conversation with yourself, which is the conversation you want to have with yourself as a success. This is not about lying to yourself or deluding yourself. This is about conditioning your mind to say what you know needs to be said. For example, I would say it to people I know, or my colleagues at the time, and I would say it to myself. I would say it to my children. I am more than able to do this. Doing this degree is not a problem. It's my mindset that's the problem. Curtis, or addressing the voice, like, why do you feel like that? Have a conversation. You know why? Because of X, Y, and Z. This sneeze is coming, by the way. Here we go. Oh, there you go. You know, my mindset needed to have a conversation with me. Why do you feel like this? And I would find answers, or I would ask questions. But I would always conclude, yeah, but I will still do this because I'm able. I want you to know that your placement isn't the problem, per se. Doing the work isn't the problem. It's your attitude to it. Just do it. Just do the work. Literally, just as you would, shaking in your boots, just do it. And as you tell yourself, I can do this. My work is not the problem. You got to say this to yourself. My work is not the problem. My degree, my assignments are not the problem. My attitude towards them is. Now I can tell you this, and I tell it to my son, and I learned this in psychology in college. When people perform in front of crowds, they perform differently. Now, for example, sports stars, it's the crowd that makes them perform as high as they do on the day. Now, that crowd can make or break you, because, you know, like in World Cup, when it's penalties, I bet these footballers can take penalties all day long. If I was the goalie, they would score every time, not because I'm a rubbish goalie, but because don't have the crowd pressuring them. But also, the reason why they play as well as they do, whether it be race car driving, is because the crowd isn't there. I remember, in the pandemic, obviously, sports still took place, but there were no crowds. It was strange to see football being played with no roars, no cheers. How does a goal feel when the crowd isn't cheering behind you? I remember Lewis Hamilton saying he just wants his fans back because they're a part of his performance. And I'll say to you that you've got to be your own crowd and cheer yourself on. Say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done. And that's where the greatest power is when you can do that for yourself. Whilst being aware that you are not an island unto yourself, but you've got to do what it takes to get through. And what's helped me a lot is just speaking differently about me. Be careful what you say about yourself. Be so careful about that. Write a narrative and speak a narrative that can be another truth. I can say this to you now. Look, my past I was honestly, and this is because I've had conversations with myself. You've been scared, Curtis, for too long. Masquerading as a strength, but you were really just scared. I can say that. Now I can say I'm actually good enough to do anything I want to do. I may not be as good as everybody else, but I will be good enough. Do you know what I mean? I'm not foolish enough to think that I can jump in a Formula One car and drive as good as anybody. But I will be my best. And that I can tell you. I will do it. That is a level of confidence. And that is a level of courage. It's not deluded. It's just a part of the rewiring. And when you rewire into a higher truth, so to speak, sounds all spiritual now, into a higher truth, your performance changes. I want you to get this because I've seen it for myself. When you speak differently about yourself, you rewire. And that's what that video clip gave us at the beginning. I'm going to play it at the end as well. When you tell yourself and reprogram yourself to say, I can do better, you become your own audience. And your performance is increased. Your ability to process. If you have more confidence, now listen, you can be wrong at times, but listen to me. If you have more confidence in what you are doing and what you are hearing about, if you believe in yourself, like I can get this, do you know that you can hear the information that's being taught to you differently? That's 100% real. If you have less confidence in your abilities, it affects how you speak, how you write. It affects your handwriting, for crying out loud. It affects your physical posture. It affects how you walk. I'll give you a quick analogy. My son, he does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We love full contact martial arts, right? We love all that. And one day I could see he was up against someone who was smaller than him and less strong. But they had been doing it a lot longer, okay? They were much higher grade than him. And he was just getting back into it. And we went to the class one day and his posture, the way he walked around the dojo, I said, he's defeated already, you know? And lo and behold, he lost. Lo and behold, he lost a fight. And I watched that, he watched about 2 or 3 fights. He lost them because he didn't believe in himself. And so I did some work with him. After the show, I said to him, come, let's have a chat. And I said to him, it was just your self-belief, son. Okay? So I went back and he and I did some sparring during the week. And I was teaching him lessons. I said to him, it's not your strength. It's your belief in what you are doing. And we focused on that one point. And then the following week he went back and he did far, far better. And I looked at his posture and it was his mindset, his attitude towards himself was just different, visually different. And that's the power of self-belief. It doesn't just affect, it's not just words coming out your mouth. It is a trajectory. Like, why the heck would you apply for a degree and not believe in yourself? You have to believe in yourself. There's no point in not believing. And you have to speak in line with where you want to go. What do you want to do with this? I want to be a great social worker. You have to talk like that. I will learn. I will achieve. I will be continually developing myself. I'm going to help families. I'm going to write the best assessments. I've had to do that to get this far. And I'm going to tell you this very lastly, and the very last thing I'll say. And as you can hear, I'm not the greatest at much. Okay, I'm good at one or two things, but you can hear how the way I talk. I can put on a show sometimes, but I can't maintain it because it's not where I'm from. I have to do this every day. Now, like even now, I have to be on it because sometimes that darkness awakens and starts to suppress. I have to fight that every day. Every single assessment I start off with a, can I do this? Almost every single. And there are some times when I'm like, yeah, I've got this. And it changes the way I write. Self-belief. I'm on this platform, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and I get attacked. And I have to do something with those voices. People hate social workers. Out of the blue, I'll get attacked on, half my posts? And I think I'm getting thick skin for it, but it's a steep hill to climb. And I'm saying to you that those voices, they will come. They will come when sometimes you're cursed out at the front door, or your manager sends back your assessment 3-4 times. You know what I mean? That can happen. And it's just about dealing with those voices. Say, okay, well, let me do better. You've got to talk to yourself differently. And it's something I have to do every single day. So I could rant about this all day long. Just do it. Talk to yourself differently and just do it. Don't look. Put your blinkers on. Don't look to the left or the right. Just do it. Because there's negativity all around us. Just do it. Take care of yourselves, guys.